Welcome. Welcome to the podcast, The Coaches Next Door. And this episode, I want to bring two different things. One is talking about the next steps for this podcast and invite you for something special. And the second thing is to talk about why we are so afraid of more sensitive people and why this matters in business and why this is so relevant. So the first thing that I want to say is the invitation. So my idea is to really support more organizations and business, right? So for that, I want to expose those businesses and that the companies that you are working in to showcase what are you doing and what relevant practices are you doing and what is working for you, and maybe also what is not working, to really create a space where we can inspire each other. And I know that sometimes we are, in HR looking for new ideas, new ways of doing all this, but also in recruitment, we are looking for, as a candidate, also to for companies that are really doing what they say. So I want to do that. So I will invite you, if you are working in an organization that you want to show to the rest of the world. And just a reminder that I just realized yesterday, I even shared it, and I was so glad that we reached 81 countries with this podcast. This is really incredible, right? So we have really an opportunity to reach a lot of people at the same time. And you can approach and send us an email, present a little bit your case. So what do you like to talk about, and what is the things that you really want to show to the world about your organization and your way of working. And then we will schedule an interview with you. And yeah, the stage is yours. That's simple as that. Now, let's go to the topic. Yeah, let's go to the topic of this week. So, why are we so scared of sensitive people? So, why we are so scared of people, for instance, that cry in a meeting, or cry when we are giving them feedback, or start laughing. I don't know. Anything can happen, right? But why this is so uncomfortable? And why I'm bringing this up is that one of the things that I hear when I'm working with leaders is that they really struggle, and they sometimes even make the conversations a little bit more, cold, and a little bit more straight to the business point, because they don't know what to do when someone shows a little bit more their emotions. They go like, but what do you do? I do is the person cries, and what do I do if the person starts getting angry? So people tend to cut the connection, not because they don't want the connection, but because they are afraid what can happen with the other person and what they will do with that. So this is really a thing. And also a lot of times happens when, for instance, people need to give feedback, or people need to give the what is called the bad news conversation. And I know leaders that can be days, even without sleeping, because they know that they will have in the future that conversation. So I want to start with this idea that, of course, the emotions that someone is showing us, so is showing to us, like by crying, by getting angry, they will call out our main strategy to deal with that. So that's why it's so uncomfortable, okay? Because they are immediately a trigger to all the things that are in us. So when is much more than sometimes, for instance, a word only, right? Because seeing that emotion, we understand sometimes even by words, by seeing it, by feeling it. So it's the rapport that we create with that person is in a higher level because we are connecting with the emotion. Okay, so that immediate trigger will call, of course, the way that ourselves understand that emotion. And one of the biggest things that we know about humans is that we learned our strategies to deal with emotions until the age of 5, 6. Okay. And then we start repeating and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And we tend to stay with what works, even when it's not, let's say, at adult phase ideal. Let me give you an example. If you learned that crying is a weakness, okay, then when you see someone crying, it's really difficult for you to maintain, the adult conversation, because you just look and say, oh, the person should not be doing this because this is a weak point. So what I should be doing. And, or for instance, if you learn that professionally we don't cry, okay, you go like, oh, this should not be happening. You see, it's almost like your brain is talking to themselves. He's talking to himself, saying, oh, this should not be happening. This is not the right place to do this. So you block, you freeze, because it's no automatic process to deal with that, to embrace that. It's just like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And that's the thing, is that your system is looking for the error, right? So if this comes to your system as, oh, this should not be happening, or even sometimes, oh, I did something wrong because the person is crying, so I said something that I shouldn't, I just said something bad. So you enter in freeze, fly, submission kind of thing. So basically it's fear. Okay, so basically all your system is like, alarm, alarm, should not be happening. And that is where is the concentration of the problem. Okay, is about what is the meaning that you give to other people showing their emotions, whatever the emotion is. Okay, that's why it's so interesting to investigate what is our first reaction to each one of our basic emotions. Okay, because that will show us, okay, what is the meaning that I give to this emotion, because that meaning will create your next behavior. And of course, some emotions we are just like, oh, okay. And some emotions, by education, we heard so many times that they are not things that we should be doing. Like anger. No, we don't do anger. Uh, Disgust. Oh, no, so no, we also don't do that. We also don't do, surprise. Surprise, incredibly, is one of the emotions that I find it very positive, but most part of the times people will not like it. Even if surprise is what is the focus emotion, so it's the attention emotion, what I find incredible. But it's super interesting because I think it's because we are so looking for knowledge and certainty that surprise really disturbs people. But going back to the topic, so when someone is showing their emotions, is you need to see that as a strong moment of connection. Why? Because everything that we do, and emotions, in the first place. So everything that we are showing in our face, and the emotions come up on our face in our micro muscle movements, is because we really want to show to the other person, this is how I'm feeling. And sometimes people cannot put it in words, right? Sometimes it's difficult to put exactly what I'm feeling in words. So, but my body will still do it. So basically, it's almost like my system is screaming to show to the other person, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Please pay attention to it. And is my system trying to solve the relationship by showing how this conversation is making me feel? So every time that someone is showing their emotions, I get really happy, whatever the emotion is, because it's still the person is showing me that is still willing to work on this relationship, because the connection is still there. And the person is saying, basically, by showing the emotions, is saying, hey, pay attention to this because this could be a problem to our relationship. This is not incredible. I find this incredible because every time that someone is showing me how they feel about what I did or what I say or whatever, I go like, oh, you are still willing. You are still showing me because you are still willing to connect with me. That's cool. That's great. Let's use that instead of this is about me. So it's very important that we recognize what is our triggers and what is the meaning that we give to each emotion to low the possibility of someone doing something and immediately we go for the child reaction. Okay, that we say, okay, this is not about me, this is not about my own trigger, this is about the other person showing me what is my impact on her. This is a totally shift on the game of communication. Is saying thank you for showing me in a such clear way the impact that this relationship is having on you. So we should be appreciating that the person is willing to show us what is going on. You know what they say, right? That indifference is really the big problem of relationships. Is not when people are showing and when people are saying. No, when silence comes and people get neutral, that is the red flag, because means that is no trust. That the person doesn't trust, that is relevant to show me how they feel, because doesn't matter, right? So instead of looking for the emotion as danger because it's going to trigger me and I don't know what to do with that, we should be looking for that emotion as the possibility of building or restoring the relationship. That's amazing news. Do you agree? I find it amazing news. So every time that you are facing this type of situations, that you go like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Just say to yourself, it's okay. This person is just showing up. It's not about me. It's about them showing up and about the possibility of us restoring this relationship. Yes? So this is a powerful, very powerful reframing, because as a summary, most part of the times you are scared of the emotions of the other people because you are scared of your own emotions. And that's in leadership is not working. is not going to work, because leadership is made of connection. Leadership is made of trust. So we should be always embrace and open the door to that clarity, to that trust, to that possibility of for the relationship to grow and to progress and to be based on trust, whatever that trust means and whatever that trust is going to reveal. Yeah. So this is the topic that I wanted to bring today, and a sweet reminder about the possibility of you being in this podcast and showcase your organization, your practice, and the things that you believe that could inspire other people to make really, and that we can really build organizations that are made to lead. Thank you, and see you next time.